Alright, this style hinge for the doors come in two parts, and there's a small arrow pointing forward, and if we consider the big part of the hinge the front, then that's the way it's going to fit in. So we're just going to turn them both over like this, and there's a little bar here that accepts a little notch in front, and then you just snap this in place. And then to go into the door, they're already pre-drilled, and there's a little expansion piece here that as we set it in, you just work it into the hole, and then you just close the top, and that expands and holds it in place. No screws. It's very simple, and it also gives us a few different ways to adjust it. So the screws will be able to adjust the door up and down so they all match, and there's also two screws here that allow it to pivot and allow us to plumb them up. So they've really made a very nice, very efficient hinge. Alright, for the drawers, they're very easy to assemble. You have two sides and a back that just snap together, and they're all framed out, so this little slot is connecting on the bottom, and then the base of the drawer fits into these little slots along the rail. So you're going to turn the base upside down and slide it in and tap it down into the drawer like that. So very easy. The drawer face itself has these two fittings that once they're screwed in place, all you have to do is line them up on the drawer, and we're just going to line them up so that that aligning screw is centered, and then just snap it into place. And they lock down hard, and in fact, if you ever had to remove a drawer, there's a small little opening here that a lot of people have a hard time finding. You have two screws on the outside that allow you to shift the door left and right, and then also it allows you to level it up and down. So these would be those two screws. Kind of hidden in the center here, there's a little piece of metal that's covering this Phillips slot, and you almost have to wedge it up with a screwdriver, and then if you turn it, it will allow the door to be popped off. So that's kind of a hidden little screw right there, but once it's in place, it is very, very solid. Okay, once you have the door on, again, you can loosen the screws on the hinge to move the door up and down, and then these two screws on the body of the hinge will allow you to shift it and square it up. And then the last thing, so that it doesn't close hard, there's a little damper that has a little center spring here that just locks into place on the body of the hinge, and then when you shut the door, it closes slowly for you. So they did a very nice job of designing these hinges. A large base cabinet like this, probably the size of something you use for a kitchen sink, if you're going to have drawers in the top, they're going to give you this center support here, and it's important that you put this in before you put your countertop on, because you need to screw this in with two screws from the top, and then also I threw a dab of good quality wood glue on the top of it also. And then you're going to screw in your rails for your drawers right into this piece, and it's the same for all the drawers. You're going to have two rails, one on each side, and you're going to then add a damper to the back of it. And I'll show you what that looks like. It's this piece here, and as the drawer goes back, it just slows it down and doesn't allow it to slam closed. And you just slide it into the back of the rail, and then as you shut your drawer, it grabs it and slows down the close. Alright, the drawers just lay right down on the rails. You pull them out, and they need to be then slid back. Get the door out of the way. And then you need to work it in place. It needs to set into the rail. And you can see the damper on the end of the drawer. As you close it, it stops it and slowly allows it to close. So now we can go back and we can adjust with these two screws. We can slide them left and right and up and down so that they match the drawers next to them. Ikea sells a very nice gauge, simple to use for putting on handles. And in this case I have kind of a large handle. And so I marked out the spacing for placing the handle on this side. And so I know that here I actually put a circle, and so the two circles are measured from the bottom here. When I flip this around, I need to, and I put an asterisk here, I have two holes marked with an asterisk so that they're going to line up. And an easy way to mark this is I use a combination square just set on the bottom, and that way I know it's perfectly square on the bottom. And then I'm just going to hold this in place. And now I know this is my circle. I'm going to mark my circle here and my circle up here. And I've got my marks for this side of the door. And then I'm just going to take my drill. Alright, to drill the holes in the door, I'm going to make sure, like here, I'm scared I might hit the shelf. So you want to know what's behind the door you're drilling. And we want to start from the face and go to the back, because if you're going to get splintering, it's going to be when you push through the drill bit. And so one technique would be put a block of wood behind this and use clamps for it, but we're just going to go very slow and use the pressure of the drill as it pulls it through and not apply a lot of pressure. If you apply too much pressure, you can actually tear the back out a little bit. So going slow, light pressure, you can see the front looks great, and then the back also looks very good. So we're going to drill the holes and then we'll get the handles on. Time to talk with one of the Ikea kitchen specialists. They actually have some really nice options for some of the cabinets. This was traditionally a 3-drawer cabinet, and what we had them do was put this panel, large panel for a regular cabinet, onto a drawer, and they have supports here to hold a garbage can. So we can fill this up, it'll hold a lot of weight, and I think it makes it a very stylish way to hold a garbage can. Alright, I have a couple areas in the kitchen where there's some gaps, and we took a piece of the baseboard and we ripped it down. Actually, I used a Japanese pull saw that did an excellent job on this, and we cut it to size. We're going to slide it in here to finish it off, and then we'll run 2 screws through the holes that are already pre-drilled for the shelves. Alright, another great use for the combination square is we need to put this finished piece of trim on the edge of this cabinet, and I need to set this back so that these 2 screws catch it. So what I did was I measured from the front of the cabinet to the screw hole, and that's 1 inch, and then the width of this door is 3/4. So what I did was I set my combination square back 1 3/4 inches, and now when I put this flush against the door, I'll know exactly where the face of my trim should be, and we'll be able to hit it just perfectly. So again, very nice tool to have in your toolbox, very versatile, a lot of different things you can do with it. One of the final elements is the kick plate on the bottom, and so I cut it to length and I measured it to the end of the cabinet, so from one end to the other end of the cabinet, and then I'm going to piece in my side pieces so it butts up against the back of this, and we'll just have a flush cut rather than cutting a miter. And they have a really nice piece of plastic to put on the bottom of this, so it doesn't absorb water, and this pressed wood in the center here would get damaged with water. So it's a nice little additional piece. And so we cut it to length, we lay it down, and we measure the feet with a pencil, and we make a mark where all the feet are, and then they give us this little fitting to push into this track that they have in the baseboard, and then we're going to put on one of our clips, and then these clips just grab onto the feet underneath the cabinet, and we'll snap it into place. The cabinets are up, and essentially everything's done. I've got a couple small pieces that I need to cut here, just decorative pieces that'll finish it off, and that's just a matter of putting a couple screws in here. But the quality and the look of the Ikea cabinets are excellent. It's a very fair-priced kitchen, and with their unique system to put the upper cabinets up, it's very easy to put in, and I think you get a lot of expensive features at a very fair price. And so for a few $1,000s and a couple weekends, I think Ikea is a great choice for the kitchen cabinets.